You felt it, that sudden flicker in reality when something ordinary turns strangely personal. A moment so precise it feels like the world overheard your private thoughts and answered. Maybe coincidences have been following you lately. Certain words, faces, numbers, or memories returning again and again, like loyal spirits tapping your shoulder. You're not imagining it. You're not losing your mind. It's too intentional for that. Too exact. Tonight, I'm taking you beneath the modern city, into a hidden temple that looks like it was illustrated by a dream. Neon rain slides down the face of a stone guardian, pooling at your feet like molten glass. The air tastes like electricity. Down here, doors don't open with keys. They open with thoughts. And behind those doors lie 5 secrets. The mind, the mirrors, the humming ocean, the twin blades, and the pendulum hall. 7 ancient laws wearing 5 modern masks. So let me ask you, what have you been calling random that felt like it recognized you? Follow me past the first guardian, because the first law doesn't begin out there in the world. It begins behind your eyes. The first truth is intimate. The universe behaves like it's dreamed, and you're inside the dreamer. You don't just witness your life, you tint it before it arrives. You step past the stone guardian, and the temple swallows the noise of the city like it never existed. The air changes. It becomes cooler, heavier, as if the darkness has weight and settles gently across your shoulders. Somewhere far above, rain still ticks against metal, but down here it becomes slow, distant applause. Each step produces a soft echo, and the echo doesn't feel empty. It feels answered, as if the hall is breathing with you. The corridor widens into a crown room, a throne room made for a king you've never heard of. Polished obsidian floors show faint reflections, not quite mirrors, more like memories trying to remember themselves. In the center stands a stone pedestal, holding a single candle. The flame burns impossibly still, wearing a delicate crown of light. And around it, hundreds, maybe thousands, of tall mirrors arranged in a perfect circle like silent witnesses waiting for confession. The candle's glow multiplies. One flame becomes a constellation of small suns. In one mirror, you look exhausted. In another, dangerous. In another, heartbreakingly kind, like someone who has already forgiven a wound you once vowed never to forgive. Same face, different weather. Same eyes, different story. And before your mind understands it, your body feels it. That prickle along your arms, the way your breath hesitates, the subtle tilt of the room toward whatever you're thinking. As if the temple is an animal listening for your intention. As if it responds to thought the way water responds to wind. You've sensed this before in quieter places. In the everyday world, you've seen 2 people walk through the same day and come home with completely different realities. One says the city is cruel. One says it's alive. Same streets, same sky, entirely different world. Maybe you've lived it yourself. A morning where you woke braced for betrayal, and suddenly every message sounded sharp. Every silence felt like a threat. Then another morning, same phone, same people, and you woke soft and the whole world softened back. Nothing changed on the outside you could prove, and yet everything changed. When was the last time your thoughts altered the meaning of a moment, without altering the moment itself? The mirrors don't judge you for that. They simply reveal it. Thought isn't decoration you hang on reality. Thought is the lens that decides what reality even means to you. In this crown room, that idea isn't a quote or a metaphor. It's a living law, a quiet monarch. Mind first, world second. I'll admit something. I used to hate that truth. Not because it felt false, because it felt too true. Because if mind shapes the world, then my darkest hours weren't just bad luck. They were participation. And that word burns a little. It tastes like guilt if you pronounce it wrong. But the candle doesn't speak in guilt. It speaks in power. You watch the flame, and you notice it reacting, not like a trick, not like a performance, but like a creature with instincts. When fear rises in you, the flame grows thin and tall, sharpened into a needle. When your chest loosens, it widens, warm and round. When you think of someone you miss, The light trembles, and the tremble ripples across the mirrors like a whispered rumor. This is the law of mentalism, spoken without jargon. Everything you touch is touched by mind. Not just your mind or mine. Mind, the hidden sky behind every sky. The kind you feel in dreams, where doors appear because you expect them, monsters appear because you refuse to face them, and love appears the moment you finally believe you deserve to be held. And then the emotional click happens. Not an explosion, but an inward settling. You realize you've called yourself broken for years, when you were really just over-alert, awake in the wrong room, using the only tool you had, interpretation. You weren't weak for feeling too much. You were powerful enough to turn feelings into landscapes. You turned dread into a hallway that never ended. You turned hope into a window. You turned numbness into winter. You weren't lying to yourself. Your mind was doing what minds do. Painting, projecting, protecting, creating. And if it can create prisons, it can just as easily create exits. Not with fake smiles or denial, but with the raw, holy fact that the reality you experience is always filtered through the unseen artist inside you. The artist who chooses which detail becomes destiny. The artist who decides which memory becomes a prophecy. The candle's crown brightens, and for a moment the entire room looks less like a chamber and more like the inside of your skull. Vast, echoing, sacred, misunderstood. If this room spoke to you, then you're welcome here. You turn, and behind the mirrors you notice something new. A narrow passageway, hidden in a curve of reflected light. It isn't a door. It's an invitation, because the crown room is only the beginning. Beyond it lies a bridge made of mirrors, an entire world that looks exactly like yours, only larger. You think back to all the moments in your life when this truth was already whispering to you. The heaviness you felt in certain rooms before anyone spoke, that wasn't imagination. It was the room trembling with unsaid things. The alertness you felt around certain people, that was your nervous system picking up a frequency long before your mind made a judgment. Even the way a familiar street sometimes felt alive and other times felt drained had nothing to do with the street itself. It was the invisible weather inside you brushing against the world around you. And then there was the power of music, the way a single song could rip open a memory you thought you had buried under years. You always assumed it was nostalgia, or the lyrics, or the melody. But here, in the Pulse Hall, you understand, it was resonance. A frequency in the song found its twin in you, and the two shook hands in the dark, waking something you didn't know was still breathing. These weren't moods. They were messages. The hall makes that clear, not with logic, but with sensation. Standing in the center of the chamber, you feel your heartbeat slowly matching the pulse of the room. For a few breaths, you're not a visitor or an observer. You're simply one vibration among countless vibrations. One note in a universal chord. The boundary between self and world softens. Not in a metaphor, but into physics. And in that softened space, a realization rises through you with the clarity of a struck bell. Your fear trembles at its own pitch. Your hope has a hum. Your grief carries a low, aching resonance. Even your desire to become something more, yes, even that, is a frequency. And all of these tones have been broadcasting quietly from you your entire life, shaping the world around you in ways you never recognized. Suddenly, the scattered chapters of your past rearrange themselves into a pattern you can finally read. You see how certain people were drawn to you not because of fate or coincidence, but because they resonated with the wounds you carried like quiet instruments. How certain decisions felt effortless, not because they were right, but because they vibrated at the same pitch as your deepest questions. How entire seasons of your life hummed with tones you didn't realize were coming from within. None of it was random. It was resonance. And resonance is not destiny, it's dialogue. Your memory sharpens around moments when you felt safe without knowing why, and others where you sensed danger with no proof at all. That was an instinct, not really. That was the invisible vibration of things brushing against the vibration of you. notes recognizing notes. The pulse hall brightens, as if acknowledging your understanding. And something tight in your chest, something that's been clenching for years, finally exhales. Because now you see it. You don't draw on what you merely wish for. You draw on what you vibrate, what you tremble, what you allow to hum through your ribcage when no one is listening. And the most sacred part? Trembling can be changed, not by pretending, not by forcing, but by recognizing the rhythm beneath your ribs and letting it rise into something truer, something you're finally brave enough to tune to. The hum softens, your heartbeat steadies. The chamber feels less like a hall and more like a womb, warm, resonant, protective, ancient. If this spoke to you, you're welcome here again. As you turn toward the next passage, you notice an archway carved into the far wall, an opening that wasn't there when you arrived. It glows softly, as if awaiting your next breath to determine its shape. Beyond it, you don't sense vibration anymore. You sense movement, cycles, turns, the great rhythm that doesn't just hum, it unfolds. Because the next secret isn't about what everything does. It's about how everything turns. Nothing moves in the passage at first, and that stillness feels wrong. Wrong not like danger, but like anticipation. Like the air itself is tightening its grip, holding its breath for your next step. The hum behind you becomes softer, swallowed by distance, until the ocean's pulse is no longer something you hear, but something you remember, a phantom beat still trembling in your ribs. Ahead, the corridor narrows again. The walls change from smooth stone to something carved, etched with symbols that look both ancient and unfinished, like someone started writing a language humans were never meant to finish. The glowing blue-green light from the ocean fades into a cooler, moonlit silver. Then the temperature shifts. One side of the corridor is warm, soft, radiant, like holding your hands near a fire. The other side is cold, sharp, clean, the kind of cold that makes your teeth ache and your thoughts sharpen. They meet perfectly in the middle, balanced so precisely the air feels like a held blade. You've entered the chamber of twin forces. The floor is polished stone, yet it looks suspended, half in shadow, half in light. Two statues stand across from each other, towering guardians carved from different worlds. One is shaped from obsidian, dark and fluid, its edges soft as smoke. The other is sculpted from pale marble, lines so precise they look impossibly fragile, like a blade carved from moonlight. Their eyes are closed, but the air between them isn't still. Attention hums here, not violent, not chaotic, just pure, undeniable contrast. The kind of contrast all creation depends on. You can feel it in your bones the way you feel thunder before it forms. Two forces leaning toward each other, not to collide, but to complete a circuit. This is polarity, not the pop psychology version, the living version. You sense it before you can name it. Everything you've ever called conflict has been a conversation. Everything you've ever called opposite has been a partner. Everything you've ever called too much has been a teacher. The warm air brushes your right cheek like an invitation. The cold drags across your left like a warning, but not a threat. More like a reminder that one cannot exist without the other. That fear sharpens courage. That grief deepens love. That desire exists only because something inside you once slept. That darkness does not oppose light, it defines it. You've lived this before in small ways. How joy felt brighter after sorrow. How clarity often arrived only after confusion softened you. How beginnings disguised themselves as endings until you turned around and saw the pattern. You step deeper into the chamber, and the statues react, not with movement but with awareness. The obsidian one radiates heat that feels almost tender. The marble one radiates cold that feels almost medicinal. And you understand the truth. Neither force is here to dominate. Both are here to balance. This is why your life has never been one straight tone. It's in a symphony of contrasts, highs and lows shaping each other, building meaning the way night makes sunrise miraculous. A memory flashes in the mirrored stone beneath your feet, a moment when you were convinced you were falling apart. Then another memory follows, something beautiful that only happened because of that unraveling. Then another, 2 events years apart that suddenly reveal themselves as the same cycle wearing different weather. Your knees soften, not from weakness, from comprehension. Nothing has been working against you. Everything has been working with what you refuse to face. You look up, and the statues have opened their eyes, not glowing, not threatening, just aware, as if acknowledging your understanding. And the air changes. A soft vibration forms between the 2 guardians. Warm and cold fold into each other, forming a ribbon of shimmering light that rises like a slow exhale. It stretches toward the corridor behind them, illuminating a hidden passage you hadn't noticed, a path carved cleanly through shadow and shimmer, neither light nor dark, but something precisely in between. The lesson settles into you like a final note, resolving a chord. Opposites do not oppose. They orbit. They teach. They create movement. And what you once called conflict is often just transformation happening one layer at a time. If this spoke to you, you're welcome here again. You step toward the revealed passage. Ahead, the temperature evens out. Your footsteps echo, not sharply, not softly, but in perfect balance. The corridor bends out of sight, and somewhere deeper in the temple you sense an unmistakable rhythm, a slow back and forth, a rise and fall, a universal swing older than light. Because the next chamber doesn't test your mind or your resonance or your polarity. It tests your timing. The pendulum hall is waiting. Balance isn't a statue. It isn't a moment frozen in perfection. It lives by moving, by a shifting weight from one truth to another without losing the center between them. And the temple knows this. It feels it. As the chamber slowly rights itself, you sense a new kind of motion threading through the air. Not the spiraling hum of the ocean, not the twin currents of polarity. This movement is older, heavier, measured with the patience of planets. It draws you forward with the quiet gravity of inevitability. The corridor ahead stretches long and narrow, carved from stone so smooth it reflects slivers of your face in warped, passing fragments. Shadows sway across the walls, long, curved shapes that slide back and forth in a rhythm that almost matches your breathing. The air tastes metallic now, like the calm inside a clock just before it chimes. You step into the passage, and the sound arrives. A slow, deep swing, not a creak, not a grind, a pulse felt more than heard. A steady arc moving through the darkness, part ancient machinery, part heartbeat. It pulls at the silence, carving the air in wide, deliberate intervals. The corridor widens gradually until the space opens like the inside of a cathedral built by monks who worship motion instead of gods. This is the Pendulum Hall. The ceiling disappears into a darkness so high it feels hollowed out by centuries. From that darkness descends a single, colossal pendulum, its chain thick as a ship's anchor, its polished weight gleaming with a dull, bronze heartbeat of light. It swings in perfect intervals, slow enough to calm the breath, heavy enough to make your chest feel small. With every pass, the air bends. With every return, the stone beneath your feet hums. Time itself seems to inhale and exhale. You stand there, mesmerized, and realize the hall isn't just showing you movement. It's showing you inevitability. No matter how far the pendulum travels, it always comes back. No matter how high it rises, it always descends. Its path is not a failure. It is a law. And suddenly your own life spills across your memory in pendulum patterns. Times you thought you'd escape something, only for it to return. Not because you were weak, but because unfinished lessons swing back. Times you swung toward courage, then back toward safety, then toward courage again. Times you lost someone, then found a deeper version of the connection you thought was gone. Times you rose, fell, rose again, each arc carving a deeper understanding. The pendulum doesn't punish its own motion. Neither should you. Step by step, you approach the center of the hall. With each swing, the great weight passes close enough that you can feel its wind tug at your clothes, cold, precise, disciplined. It feels like standing beside an ancient truth that does not change to comfort you, but does not hurt you either. It reminds you that no emotion stays forever, That no season is permanent. That no identity is fixed. That no you remains untouched by time. Your worst moments have swung away before. Your best ones will too, but they return in new shapes, bearing new meanings. That is the law of rhythm, not as poetry, but as architecture. You reach the point directly beneath the pendulum's arc, and the air thickens. Each swing seems to pass more slowly, carving a line through your breath, dividing your thoughts into clean halves. Above you, the chain groans with the stretch of gravity. Below you, the stone vibrates with the weight of return. A realization blooms slowly, like a candle taking a spark. You've blamed yourself for swinging, for changing, for falling back into old habits, for rushing forward, then retreating, for wanting, then doubting, then wanting again. But you were never meant to stay at one end of the arc. Life pulls you forward. Life pulls you backward. But motion itself is progress. What you call backsliding might be part of the path. What you call contradiction might be transition. What you call failure might simply be the backswing before momentum returns. The pendulum roars through the air again, and for a moment, it feels like your heartbeat sinks to it. The rhythm enters your chest, your throat, your lungs, your pulse matching the ancient swing. And then it happens. Between two swaying shadows, a door reveals itself. Narrow, tall, marked with a single vertical line. Not a symbol, a path. A reminder that rhythm isn't the end of the story. It's the engine that prepares you for the next law. As the pendulum swings away in a long, shimmering arc, the door cracks open with a low sigh. Warm air escapes, scented with something you can't name. Something like memory mixed with possibility. Because beyond this hall lies the final secret. Not movement, not reflection, not resonance, not polarity, but the force that ties them all together. The law that doesn't reveal itself with sound or sight, but with consequences. You don't touch the door at first. You just stand before it, feeling the weight of its presence, the way it seems to tilt the gravity of the entire hall toward itself. The pendulums behind you continue their sweeping arcs, their chains groaning like tired constellations, but their sound fades into a distant hum, as if the temple is telling you that rhythm has brought you as far as it can. What waits beyond this threshold is not a cycle, not a swing, not a spectrum. It's origin. The surface of the door is smooth, but not dead. More like something sleeping under black water, waiting to be stirred. When you raise your hand, heat blooms beneath your fingertips, subtle at first, then pulsing like a heartbeat. Not yours. Something older. Something deeper. Something that feels like it has been following your footsteps through every corridor, watching you learn, waiting for the moment you are ready to ask the question it contains. No guardian stands here. No blade hangs above. This place has no symbols because the truth behind it doesn't need metaphors. It is the truth beneath metaphors. And then you feel it, the faintest tug, not on your hand but on your chest. A gentle pull, like a memory you forgot to remember or a name you haven't spoken in years calling you from a distance. It draws you closer until your forehead nearly touches the surface. You don't hear a voice. You remember one, not in words, but in sensation, the way a childhood storm felt when you watched lightning split the sky, or the way someone once said your name in a tone so true it made you believe, for a moment, that you were allowed to exist exactly as you were. Something ancient presses into your awareness like a fingerprint. Identity is not found. It is revealed. The door absorbs your touch, softening like ink blooming on wet paper. Darkness spills outward, not violent, not cold, just absolute, like a truth that isn't interested in arguing. The hall behind you dims, and the last traces of the pendulums blur into shadow until nothing remains but you, the door, and the slow, molten glow emerging from the cracks like volcanic breath. Then the door opens. Not outward, not inward. It dissolves, a sheet of shadow turning to dust and drifting into the air. And behind it is a chamber unlike any you've seen tonight. No stone, no carvings, no gears, just an endless, horizonless dark, lit from far above by a single beam of gold so thin it looks like a needle piercing the void. And suspended in the center of that beam is something small, something impossibly simple. A thread, not metaphorical, an actual thread of light, shimmering with quiet defiance, as if refusing to be anything other than itself. It hangs perfectly still, not swaying, not vibrating. A single line in an infinite night. The moment you step inside, the silence changes. It isn't empty. It's charged, full, like the entire room is holding its breath for you. You can feel the thread's presence before you even approach it. Feel it press against your skin like a question on the edge of being answered. This is the law behind the door. Not polarity, not rhythm, not consequence. Essence. The part of you that never split into opposites. The part of you that never bent to the swing. The part of you that never learned to hide, shrink, apologize, or exaggerate to survive. The you that existed before you were named. You move closer slowly, not out of fear but reverence. The thread glows brighter as you near it. And for a moment, the light reveals a faint reflection on your skin. Your face, but not the version you carry day to day. Not the version refined by expectations, softened by hesitation, hardened by necessity. The reflection looks like someone you've met only in dreams. Someone whole. Your throat tightens, not in pain, but in recognition. And you understand, suddenly and without instruction, that the thread is not something to take or pull or cut. It is something to listen to. When you place your hand near it, not touching, just close enough to feel the hum, the thread sings. A single note, almost too soft to hear, but unmistakably there. It vibrates inside your bones, inside your ribs, inside the quietest room in your mind. It is your original frequency, the one you abandoned, the one you diluted, the one you try to trade for approval, safety, belonging, or forgiveness. Here, in the chamber of essence, there is no should left, no better version of you waiting to be earned, no identity placed on you like a costume. There is only the truth of what you were before the world told you what to be. And for the first time tonight, you don't feel like you're learning something. You feel like you're remembering. The thread brightens one last time, then dims gently, as if whispering, "Keep this tone. Don't let the world detune you." When you step back, the darkness softens. The room expands, and a new doorway appears behind you. Open, waiting, flooded with a dawn-colored light that feels almost like rebirth. If this spoke to you, you're welcome here again. Because what waits beyond this chamber is not the end of the night. It's the beginning of the version of you that steps back into the world carrying your original light and refuses to forget it this time. You don't leave the temple, you rise from it. And as you step into the dawn, you realize the temple was never a place, but a shape your soul took when you finally dared to look inward. The city above is quiet, washed in early light. Your shadow stretches long behind you, then slowly dissolves into the morning, like the night releasing its hold. You feel different, not because something was added, but because something tightened inside you finally loosened. Everything you met down there, the crowned flame, the mirrored bridge, the black ocean, the twin blades, the pendulums, weren't separate worlds. They were pieces of the same truth. The universe doesn't act on you. It answers you. In vibration, in polarity, in rhythm, in reflection. You walk forward with a quieter kind of strength, the kind that doesn't try to overpower the dark, just refuses to be shaped by it. A soft lantern inside you now lights the path, not to remove shadows, but to remind you they're part of the map. So ask yourself gently, if the world mirrors you, hums with you, swings with you, what do you want to hear next? And if a door opened inside you tonight, keep it open. Because the mystic realms don't end when the video ends. They begin wherever you're brave enough to look again.